This tutorial is to address the entries within the assignments of LiveText in the participating teacher's account. So you can see right now I'm in a participating teacher demo account, and we're going to be looking at the year 1 entries of entries 1, 2, and 3, and the year 2 and ECO entries of 6, 7, and 8. Now I'm only going to go through one assignment, but the generalities fit for all of those. So I'm going to actually use the ECO entry 7 for this demonstration because there are some different parts that I can speak to that end up landing in both year 1, year 2, and ECO. So I'm going to go over here and click Begin Assignment, and again this will work for General Ed and SPED, Year 1, Year 2, and ECO in entries 1, 2, and 3, and entries 6, 7, and 8. So when I log in, I'm going to read a little bit of directions, and hopefully we'll have previewed before attending the event the resources that are added. Now, we are asking you to actually preview or do whatever the resources are. Maybe it's reading an article or taking a quiz. But we're asking you to also preview but not complete or do the actual assignment. And the reason for that is because there might be things that we tell you from the front of the room that don't exactly match what you might think it means. So I'm going to go over here to begin using template. And you're going to notice from looking at this page list that there are several pages to do within this assignment. Now it looks gigantic, it's really not. They're just little sections. Each one of these is considered a page. So again, here's classroom observation, that's a page on the page list. Student work and analysis, that's a page on the page list. Now the reason I chose this assignment is because it's a little bit different than just filling out information. Entries 2, 3, 7, and 8 all require an observation by your support provider. So your support provider will have an observation template that they use and that they debrief with the participating teacher on, but that is going to be scanned and uploaded to this area. And it lets you know right here in red. So in order to do that, you would scan it to your computer, then you would click Edit. And down here at the bottom where it says File Attachments, you would use this button to browse your computer and upload the assignment. Now before you upload that assignment into LiveText, please name it appropriately. For example, for this entry, which is entry 7, I would name it Entry 7 Observation by SP, so that it is clear to the evaluators at the end of the year what this attachment is. So I'm going to go back to the assignment and talk about the other pieces. Within the assignment, you're going to have several pages from the page list. One of the ones that's a little bit different than usual is the student work and analysis. In year 1, entries 2 and 3 are observations, but only entry 3 requires you to upload student work. In year 2 and ECO, entries 7 and 8 are both observations, and both entries 7 and 8 require you to gather evidence from students for that lesson and upload them and analyze them. So when you teach a lesson and your support provider observes, you want to collect some information from students that you are focusing on. Now my year 2s and my ECOs, you choose those students during our event and you stick with them most of the year. If you're a secondary teacher, you might have to switch mid-year because of the semester switch. But you're going to focus on these same students every time you gather evidence. So when you click the Edit button, you would type out the student's first name, identify what this piece of evidence is and who created it. Then you're going to ruminate. How did classroom environment help or hinder the student's ability to acquire lessons? So you'll notice that the questions within each of your entries are tailored toward the standard that we're focusing on. And in year 2, we're focusing on the engaging and supporting all students and creating and maintaining effective environments. So you would thoroughly and completely thoughtfully answer these questions. There's student 1, then you have student 2. And as you keep scrolling, you have student 3. You would then use the File Attachments button to upload your student evidence. And again, before you upload it to LiveText, please rename your files appropriately. Student number 1 and the first name. Student number 2 and the first name. Student number 3 and the first name. That way the work is easily identifiable. You might even want to go so far as to answer to do it as student number 1, first name, entry 7 or entry 3, whichever entry it goes to, so that you can keep yourself organized. When I'm all finished answering the questions thoroughly and thoughtfully, and remember, thoroughly and thoughtfully does not mean pages and pages and pages. Really think about that kid, what you need to do for that student, how this lesson landed on them. That's the important part. We're going to save and finish. Then we would go back to our page list and click on the next piece, and then the next piece. Every lesson culminates in a reflective conversation as well as a continuum of practice. This one happens to have 2 continuums of practice. Most of them have 1, unless you're an early completion option participant. The reflective conversation comes at the end of all of the work and the evidence gathering so that you can look at it together with your support provider and really concentrate on how to move your teaching practice forward and how to have it land on your students. Each one of these pages has an edit button off to the right that will allow you to answer those questions. What I want to focus on next, though, is the continuum of practice, because this is a little bit different. So I'm just going to click that and it will jump right down to the continuum of practice. And again, you have that edit button. It says change the text color to indicate where you are on this continuum for this lesson. It's a snapshot in time. We don't want how you usually are. We don't want how you are at your best or at your worst. We want you to look at it exactly for how you are on this lesson. And you want to be sure to make next steps comments to indicate how you will move over on the continuum. So again, I will click my edit button. And you'll notice for CSTP1, engaging and supporting all students in learning, that each of the key elements is indicated here. So there's key element number 1. If I scroll on down, you'll see key element number 2, and so forth, number 3. So we're going to need to do this next part for each key element. So for this lesson, using knowledge of students to engage them in learning. Am I emerging, exploring, applying, integrating, or innovating? I'm going to read the actual description. Learns about students through data provided by the school and through the districts or through the district assessments. Yeah, okay, I do that. Exploring gathers additional data to learn about students. Students engage in single lessons or a sequence of lessons that include some adjustments based on the assessments. Okay, I do that probably not as well, but I'm pretty solidly in that column. Then the third column says uses data from a variety of formal and informal sources to learn about students and guide selection of instructional strategies. Students engage in learning through use of adjustments in instruction to meet their needs. Okay, you know what? I'm more in the exploring box than I am in the applying. So I'm going to highlight the text in, let me scroll down a little bit here, in this box, and I'm going to go over and change the font color. There we go. That's where I think I am. Now I'm going to come down here and specifically address how I'm going to move myself forward from this column to this column. So right here, I'm going to change my font color to the same color. I'm going to write down how I am going to actually start. Instead of gathering information, I'm going to use more checks for understanding to move my instruction according to my kids' needs on the fly. So here I will use whiteboards for checks for understanding in order to adjust my teaching on the fly. That's one thing that I'm going to do. The other thing that I think I'm going to do is to make sure that I have students learning through the use of those adjustments in instruction to meet their needs. So I need to look at the individual students. So I will look at the assessments for my EL students, my low students, my SPED students, and integrate X, Y, and Z strategies to accommodate for them. Now you're going to notice that my font didn't turn color, so I'm just going to highlight it really quickly and go over and choose that again. So it's all highlighted in the same color, and I'm going to continue to go on and address each of the key elements for this lesson. Now all of the COPs are different for the different lessons because each entry addresses a different California standard for the teaching profession. When I am all finished and the COP is all highlighted, and you'll notice there are 6 sections, I'm going to click Save and Finish. Now here's a little note for the support providers. Support providers, when you are all finished, you will either want to print this out or jot down just on a sticky note somewhere where your participating teacher was for each element, because you're going to be using that later to help us gather some data that we need for program improvement purposes. So on a sticky note, I might write element 1.1, exploring, element 1.2, applying, element 1.3, emerging. Whatever we had decided on this continuum, I'm just going to write it down because I'm going to be using it later once this assignment is in my account. So we're going to pretend that we have finished off all pages on the page list. And then we're going to click Continue to Step 3. Just like in any other assignment, it will attach it down below. Now I can open it up and work in it again if I want to. But now that I'm done, I'm going to click Submit Assignment. And remember, we've been working PTSP side by side. This should be done. We should know what each other were doing. We had the conversations. So we click Assignment. And again, if I need to, we can withdraw it. But if we look back on the dashboard, it has turned yellow. There it is, right there. So now it's in the support provider's ballpark. It's in their account, and they need to go in and view the assignment and submit it to the program. So remember, these same basics are applicable to entries 1 and 2, Gen Ed and SPED. Entries 1, 2, and 3, Gen Ed and SPED, as well as entries 6, 7, and 8, Gen Ed and SPED. I hope this tutorial was helpful.